Hello, Bolt fans, and welcome to another episode of ChargersCast. I'm your host, Kirk Brewer, and ChargersCast is a podcast about everything Los Angeles Chargers by fans for fans. This episode, we've got a lot to cover. We are going to be covering the Hall of Fame game and some analysis and thoughts on that. We're going to be covering the upcoming Week 1 preseason game against the New Orleans Saints. And we're also going to be going over some roster and personnel-related items. We've got a lot to talk about in this episode. Unfortunately, not all of it's good. Some of it's actually pretty crappy. But nonetheless, it's stuff we need to cover. So let's get into it. First item of business, which is a tradition here on ChargersCast, is to have an ice cold beverage. This week, I think we decided to go with the Modelo Chelada, the Michelada. So that'll keep us quenched while we're doing the podcast. Cheers. All right. No easy way to do it. Let's peel off the Band-Aid. Let's just get into it. This week's bittersweet week for us Chargers fans. Last week, we were elated. We finally signed Rashawn Slater to an extension. It's a big extension, made him the highest paid offensive lineman in the league and locked him up through 2029, which locked up Justin Herbert's bookend stud tackles together through 2028, which would be the end of Alt's rookie contract. And then we had Rashawn through 2029. Well, yesterday in practice, he blew out his patellar tendon. He's going to be having season-ending surgery to fix that tendon, and he will be out the entire 2025 season. I don't know, quite honestly, other than maybe something knocking Justin out for the whole season. I honestly don't know if there would be a worse blow that we could take than having Rashawn out in preseason for the whole 2025 season. I guess maybe the one saving grace would be that it's early in preseason. And so we're going to have an opportunity to feel out the existing players in the line rotation and have an opportunity through preseason and roster cut downs to possibly add either a depth piece or bring in a veteran starter. So, man, it seems like us Charger fans, we just can't get a break sometimes, and this is brutal. So, according to Coach Harbaugh, the plan currently, and this is just literally 24 hours after this happened, would be to move Joe Alt from right tackle over to left tackle, which he played his entire career at Notre Dame. No doubt he'll hold the fort down there and protect Justin's blind side spectacularly. And then right now, while Zion is cross-training at center, Harbs has essentially said, right now, if you had to choose today, Zion would be the starting right guard, Bose would be the starting center, Mekhi Becton starting right guard, and then he would be moving Trey Pipkin. Right now, Trey Pipkin, the third, would be the starting right tackle. Now, I'm not Coach Harbaugh, and Lord knows I don't get paid like Coach Harbaugh, nor do I have his experience. However, I'm a Chargers fan for a long, long time, been watching a lot of ball, and been watching Trey Pipkin long before Coach Harbaugh got here. I like Trey. Think he's a great dude. Think he's a great rotational backup guy. But we've all seen it, right? At right tackle. Was he even slightly better maybe than Storm Norton? I don't know. I honestly don't know. To me, there was a game against Max Crosby, man. He was a turnstile, okay? Multiple games like that. Not just Max Crosby, but Max Crosby faces him twice in the division, right? And so, personally, I would be looking at Jamari Salyer before I'd be looking at Trey. If you remember, 2 seasons ago, Rashawn went down mid-season. For the rest of the season, it was Jamari Salyer's rookie season, and he played left tackle in college. And they put him at left tackle, and he held that spot down remarkably well for a rookie. He held that spot down remarkably well the rest of the season. So he is more than capable of playing left tackle. And then this season, people have been singing Salyer's praises as far as coming in better shape, showing better technique, all of the things you would want to hear of a player that's now reaching his status, that he's serious about his profession and he wanted to come in and compete, right? Competitors welcome. So personally, I would be looking at Jamari Salyer over Pipkin. And as coach says, how do you know what the best players are? Well, they play better. So it's early in preseason. And if I was going to bet money on this, I suspect Salyer would outplay Pipkin, and he's going to earn a starting spot, whether that's left tackle and they move Alt back to right tackle. So we have these twin tower, massive men on the right side between Becton and Alt to just dominate opposing defenses, or they do some shifting and work Salyer in maybe on the right side tackle or guard and bump somebody else out to tackle, like maybe a Mekhi Becton. He's played a lot of tackle in his career. So right now, I would say it's going to be a work in progress. I suspect very, very high probability between now and week 1 of the season. Again, if I had to put money on it, I would bet money that Ortiz is going to bring in another offensive lineman, whether that's lineman depth or if we're able to get a veteran, whether that is through free agency. There's a couple out there. Pickings are pretty slim, but there's a couple out there. Or via trade, kind of like last season with Elijah Molden. Late in preseason, before the start of week 1, we've got Elijah Molden in on a really nice trade. And look how he performed, and we gave him a 3-year extension. So I wouldn't be shocked at all as we're nearing week 1 and teams are getting ready to cut down their roster that there might be a guy that they would cut that would go out into the open market, that maybe the Chargers would say, hey, we're willing to give you a little bit to avoid that and get him on our roster. So I think that might be a distinct possibility, is a late preseason trade for a veteran. And then last but not least is post cutdowns prior to week 1. As you know, teams are trimming their rosters down from 90 to 53. I could see several very serviceable veteran offensive linemen being available that are better than our alternatives of maybe the Pipkins or the Salyers. So stay tuned for this. It's going to be a work in progress, but just a sad day in Chargers land when that went down. And to make matters worse, it's so bittersweet because that was the first day Keenan Allen was back in practice, right? We had signed Keenan Allen earlier this week. I think it was Tuesday. We had signed Keenan, and so he was back in practice for the first time when Rashawn Slater went down. It was awesome to see Keenan back in the fold. Looking forward to getting him up to speed on the new offense and seeing how he does. But they threw him right in the fire in pads on his first day, which was totally awesome. And he looked good, man. He looked really good. For me, there's two big assets. There's two big benefits, I should say, for bringing Keenan in. I thought Mike Williams was probably a better fit for the current wide receiver room roster as far as his ability to be outside, 50-50 balls, stretch the field, that sort of thing. But just short of, having Mike, with Mike's retirement, unexpected, still don't know why, by the way, haven't had a press conference. The benefits I see from Keenan are twofold. Number one, his rapport with Justin is insane. They'll get right back. I think is going to be like riding a bike. They'll get right back in that sync really, really quick. And we know Keenan is one of the best possession receivers in the league. Is he going to, stretch the field? Heck no. That's not what he does. He's never really been that guy. But as he's gotten older, he's definitely not that guy. But his route running is second to none. He can get open. So third down conversions, he's going to be that safety blanket for Justin, which Ladd came in and was awesome. And so now you're going to have two of those guys. The other benefit that's going to be really, really awesome is this is such a young wide receiver room. I mean, literally, I guess technically like Jalen Rager's probably the oldest guy in the room, but QJ is really kind of, the oldest guy in the room. And then we've got Ladd and Rice and these rooks. And so I think Keenan's veteran presence, the skill that he possesses, his route running ability and technique, he is going to help these young wide receivers, I believe, mature a lot quicker. He's going to help them refine their technique, their route running technique much quicker. And we could see these young guys, they're all super talented, especially the two rooks in Trey Harris and KLS. Super, super talented if you've been watching them so far in camp. And so I think the benefits Keenan's going to bring there as this young group grows up this season and continues to mature, and even Ladd. Okay, I think Ladd may benefit more than all of these guys because of the finer techniques that Keenan brings to the game that Ladd can pick up on. So I think that's huge. I think it's a bargain that we're getting him. I think it was $8.5 million, give or take some rounding, 8.52 or whatever it was. But between Keenan's years of experience and his abilities, and then Sanjay's coaching, I think our wide receiver room could really, really be special. This KLS kid, I'll get into him more as we talk about the Hall of Fame game. But I think Keandre Lambert Smith, KLS, this kid's the real deal. He looks the part in every way when I watch him in practice and watch him in the Hall of Fame game, which is just one game, but we got another game coming up this weekend. So let's roll into the Hall of Fame game. Talk a little bit about that game, some observations, some thoughts. I think it's really cool that we're getting a fourth preseason game. I think we can use it. And I think Harbaugh and the coaching staff are going to definitely take advantage of having that. By the way, got my Gatesy jersey on in honor of the GOAT now being a member of the NFL Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame. Congrats, Antonio. It was a pleasure watching you all these years, and well-deserved, man. Cheers. So the Hall of Fame game. Observations on this game. Big picture, this was a Harbaugh preseason game. Very few errors. The team looked really polished when you're considering undrafted free agents and rookies were almost exclusively in this game. It's a little surprised to see Will Dissly actually playing in the game, but he has a couple really nice receptions. But the team made very few mistakes, and those mental errors, you didn't see a lot of that. They looked tight for all these young, inexperienced players, which is really, really encouraging. The performance was solid. Minimal mistakes, minimal penalties, and they forced, 4 or 5 turnovers? Really nice turnovers. First play of the game, special teams, turnover, which is the name of the game in the NFL, right? Is takeaways. So great performance from a high-level view without drilling down. Just overall, the team looked like a team, which we can't always say that in preseason with the Chargers and past coaching staffs. So it looks like what Harbaugh and staff are doing is working, and the team looked really polished for an early preseason game. Drilling down a little bit. Well, first off, what were your thoughts on those unis? Personally, I got to tell you, I thought the powder blue pants and the white jerseys were sharp. And there are a couple players wearing black cleats that just looked cool. It was a really cool look. The black cleats, the powder pants, the white jerseys, and white helmets was a pretty sweet look that we've never, ever seen before. So pretty cool. Trey Lance, let's start there. Never been a big fan of Trey Lance's. Not that I've been a hater of Trey Lance's, but he's just never really, shown me anything. I think he was a stretch for the Niners when they drafted him. The guys, his predecessors at North Dakota State, his initial predecessor was Easton Stick, who won way more games. I think he was like 58-3 or something. Way more games than Trey did, played way more games than Trey did. And I think we can all agree Easton was nowhere near being prepared to be a professional NFL quarterback from a skill perspective, especially. And Easton's predecessor was Carson Wentz. And Carson showed some flashes after he got drafted in, first round. I don't remember if he was first overall, but we all know where that went. Okay. He's now a backup. And I think the rest of his career, he'll be at best probably a backup unless the team gets really, really desperate. And so those two guys, Wentz and Stick, had way more experience, were way more polished than Trey when they came out versus Trey. So it was no mystery that he got beat out by Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, when he got hurt. And then went to Dallas and didn't do much there. And now he's here with us. But what I will say is he looked really good. He looked poised. He looked in command of the offense. He had some really nice touch passes. The touchdown to Dissly, the touch pass to KLS. Both of those were to the right, by the way, but he had a couple nice ones to the left. Is he causing a quarterback 2 battle? I would say no. I would say that position is Taylor's unless something dramatic happens. It's early in preseason, and so something dramatic absolutely could happen, whether it's injury or just getting outplayed. But at this point, I would say he's really auditioning for the rest of the league and maybe to earn that QB3 spot, which is an important spot. And, we're paying him $2.5 million, I think it is. And not bad to be the emergency quarterback. So we'll see how that continues to progress. But he looked really, really good. And I don't want to take that away from him. He really, other than one botched play, and I don't know if that was him or the running back, he looked really in command of the offense, and he played very well. And, the score reflected it. The team played very well. Taylor Heineke is going to start this week's coming up preseason game. I suspect Lance will finish out the second half, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's kind of it at the QB2, QB3 position. The running backs, really enjoyed watching the running backs in this Hall of Fame game. Hampton got very few carries, our number one pick. I want to say it was 3 or 4 carries. And we got to see a little bit, just a flash of what everybody's been raving about as far as his vision and his capability of cuts and hitting the hole, and running hard, running tough. And then I would also say he got a taste of the NFL on that tackle on the left side where he thought he was going to bounce out around the DB. What was his name? Yasin. And the DB just flat out took him down. So it was nice for him to get some real bullets in the NFL and kind of go, okay, I'm not in college anymore. All these guys are good, even the second and third stringers. So I think that was really good for him to get a few reps, and then the coaches pulled him out and put the rest of the guys in. But the rest of the guys looked great. Kamani Vidal ran hard, had a good game. What's his name? Patterson looked good. Haskins had some really, really nice runs, tough runs, hard-nosed runs. And then the new guy, Miller Hines, had some really nice runs as well. So keep an eye on this room. There's some battles going on for that third and maybe fourth running back spot. And it's going to be interesting as we watch the preseason play out. And of course, we're not going to see our boy from Pittsburgh. We're just not going to see him play because of his eye injury from the 4th of July fireworks deal. Supposedly his eye is still swollen shut. He can open it, but by default it's swollen shut. And actually in a press conference today, Harbaugh was saying that he has a chance. He didn't say probably. He said he has a chance that he'll be ready for week 1. It's not overly optimistic, but it's not no either. So we'll be watching to see if Najee can get to a point where he's ready to start week 1. But if he's not, I am not overly concerned that between Omario Hampton and the rest of that crew, they aren't going to be able to get the job done. Okay. Moving on. The wide receivers already kind of touched on this a little bit. Man, it's a young room, but it's a crazy, crazy talented room. Obviously, Ladd's the leader of the pack, and it'll be interesting to see the dynamic with Keenan back in the room. He's a grizzled veteran. You can't take anything away from what he's done. And so I would assume he's going to kind of be the leader in that room. I mean, he's just done it for so long and at such a high level. Everybody's going to be looking up to him and looking to his lead. But boy, the season Ladd had last season, he's going to be right there in as far as the hierarchy of not who's a wide receiver 1, because quite frankly, I'd put Ladd as wide receiver 1 over Keenan. But as far as the pecking order of just who's the guy, who's the man, Ladd's going to be number 2 in that room. And then the rest of the guys. But KLS, our 5th rounder, man, Ortiz he's got something going on in the 5th round, man. This guy really looks the part. He really looks like the real deal. And I'm not going to be shocked whatsoever if he turns out to be a much more dominant wide receiver than our 2nd round pick, Trey Harris. Okay. And I'm not taking anything away from Trey Harris. Crazy talented. He's flashing in practice. I don't think he got any real action in the Hall of Fame game. But KLS, just go back and look at his body of work in practice, his ability to go up and get the ball, great hands, body control on the sideline, route running, speed, power, all of those things that you want in a dominant wide receiver. KLS looks like he's got it. Okay, he just looks like he's got it. And so I'm really going to be looking forward to the rest of these preseason games because I think he's going to get a lot of game action. He's a fifth rounder, right? He's going to get a lot of game action in these preseason games. Now, it's not the same as Justin throwing to him, and we don't know if Justin's going to play a single snap in preseason. Taylor's not Justin. Trey's not Justin. But keep that in mind while he's out there on the field. But keep an eye on this kid. And then, of course, keep an eye on number 9, too, Trey Harris, our second-round pick. But really, really excited about our wide receiver room and where they can go, and bringing Keenan back into the fold to help them become pros and refined, dominant pros maybe sooner than they otherwise would be, with the exception of Ladd. So, and then last but not least, as far as observations, was the interior D-line. We didn't appear like, dominant on the defensive line. We weren't sacking their quarterback left and right. But if you go back and look at that game and look at the interior of our defensive line, they were getting some really, really good push. Our third-round rookie, Jamari Caldwell, another guy, real deal. They're raving about this dude and his ability to gobble up blockers. And if he's left one-on-one, his ability to shed that blocker and really get into the backfield. So keep an eye on him in particular. But Hand and Jones, the free agents we brought in, those guys looked really, really good as well. And the entire interior, Chris Hinton's back as well on the interior line. And we've got a Boygby and these guys. Keep an eye on that interior line. That's going to be huge. Quarterbacks hate it when the interior D gets pushed up the middle. It makes their lives miserable, and it makes our edge rushers' lives much, much better, much, much easier. And so keep an eye on that throughout preseason. And then, of course, we've got Tier at that position as well. So we're going to have a really, really nice rotation in there with these guys. And don't be surprised when Jesse Minter's defense continues to put up numbers that rank us, top 5 in the league as far as defense goes. So really, really looking forward to continuing to watch these guys in preseason, watch all these positions, and see how it evolves. We have a game coming up this weekend. It's a Sunday game, which is awesome considering, we had this extra game, this Hall of Fame game. So we get a little bit of time in between these two preseason games to rest up a little bit. So it's on Sunday. It's 1:00. It's against the New Orleans Saints. And things I'm going to be looking for in this game really is a continuation of the Hall of Fame game. Okay. I'm going to be looking to see that the team is efficient, minimal mental errors, that they perform, again, that they're efficient in and out of the huddle, in and out of their breaks, running the right routes, not having stupid penalties. Can they keep getting turnovers? That would be really nice to see, that they keep, getting those interceptions and those fumbles. And then I'm going to be looking at the wide receivers, the running backs, and that interior D-line in particular, keeping my eyes on those guys. I will be looking at the offensive line now as well with Slater down, but the reality is I don't know how much we're going to be able to decipher in preseason games regarding our starters. So we'll just have to kind of do a little wait and see how Harbaugh and G-Rowe in these preseason games, how they play their starters. I wouldn't be surprised if they do actually play their starters more now in preseason to kind of get them these reps with Slater out as a unit and help them figure out what are the right 5 pieces. Maybe not. They may do it just exclusively through practice, but don't be surprised if they maybe do roll out the starting line for a couple series in each of these preseason games. And Harbaugh also did mention that he is going to continue to play Zion at center for a little bit more in the preseason, just so he gets live fire reps. And I think that's great to get him cross-trained. But the reality is right now it's looking like Zion's going to stay at right guard and Bradley Bozeman's going to stay at center. So last but not least, what I'm going to be looking forward to this weekend is these young players, these rookie draft picks and undrafted free agents. See who's flashing. Last week, the guy who really flashed was Nico Reed. A beautiful interception. It was funny, too, because I'm watching the game and I'm telling my wife, I'm like, okay, it's about time for an interception. You know, classic from last season, Jesse Minter, bend, don't break. And sure enough, that play, the quarterback telegraphed it, and it was an easy interception. Nico cut it off. The only problem I had with him was he kept looking back over his shoulder. He probably would have scored if he just took the ball and ran with it and quit looking over his shoulder. But again, that's a young guy, undrafted free agent, and he just picked off his first NFL pass. So I can't blame him too much. But I'm going to be looking for more of these young guys, see who's flashing and who, you know, our roster is pretty mature, relatively speaking. And so there's going to be very limited opportunities for an undrafted free agent a la Antonio Gates to be able to make this roster. But that being said, the Chargers have always been one of those teams where, whether it's an Austin Eckler or Wes Welker, Antonio Gates, we always tend to find that one gem or maybe 2 gems that are undrafted, and they turn out to be crazy, talented, professional football players that have long careers, maybe not all Hall of Fame, but long careers in the NFL. And so I'm going to be looking for those guys. Who's going to flash in these preseason games? Is it going to be Nico again? Is it going to be somebody else? So that's what I'm looking for in this next preseason game this Sunday. I hope you guys are able to watch it, and love to hear your feedback as well. But otherwise, that's it for this episode. Hopefully Rashawn's surgery goes well and his recovery goes well so that he's 110% come next preseason. That's another, if you want to say there's a saving grace to this, is he's injured early in preseason, so he's going to have an entire year to have the surgery, go through PT, and recover and be ready for hopefully training camp and preseason next season. So the sooner he has a surgery, the sooner he can start rehab, and the sooner we can get our boy back. He's going to be sorely, sorely missed this season. Heart goes out to him. At least he got that contract done. He got paid. So he doesn't have to worry about that side of things. And he can focus entirely on his health and getting ready to come back and support the Chargers next season. So, all right, Chargers fans, appreciate you hanging out, joining me for another episode of ChargersCast. We'll see you next week after the Saints game. We'll talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit about the upcoming next preseason game, which I believe is against the Rams. And, we'll just keep snowballing this thing towards week 1 of the season, which will be a Friday night game. Technically, it's a home game in Brazil against the Kansas City Chiefs. All of this is building up to that crazy Friday night, week 1 in Brazil. So without further ado, you know the drill. Chargers fans, even with Rashawn down, who's got it better than us? Nobody. Catch you next time on ChargersCast. Hi, I'm Kirk Brewer, the creator and host of ChargersCast. I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of ChargersCast. We really appreciate you engaging with the podcast. When I created ChargersCast, it was intended to be a podcast about everything Los Angeles Chargers from a fan perspective. It's by fans and for fans. So it's for you, and we really appreciate you being here. If you haven't done so already, please go down below, leave a comment, give us some feedback. We really love to hear from you. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and click the little bell so that you get notifications when new content drops. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to ChargersCast. And who's got it better than us? Nobody.